Coal. Coal is pretty cool. It's a resource you can acquire in wood warships in a variety of ways. The easiest one being you can acquire it by selecting the more coal container when collecting your 3 daily containers that you can acquire by just playing the game. If you do that, you're guaranteed to get at least 1 sack of coal per container. Sometimes you even get 3 sacks of coals in 1 container if you're very lucky. And by doing just that simple action, you will have enough coal to acquire what's called a coal ship in about a month-ish if you play every single day. Again, just enough to get those 3 daily coal containers. You can also get coal by participating in whatever events are going on in game. It's usually given out there and in the battle pass, and then of course the dockyard's going on, you can get coal there. And then if ranked battles is going, you can get a healthy amount of coal there as well. So coal is a resource that is pretty easily obtainable in game, and you will eventually have enough to acquire a coal ship. Coal ships are, in my opinion, some of the best deals in the game, as you can get many a high tier premium ship, resource ship, whatever you want to call them, for free, essentially. Just gotta invest a little bit of time in the game, and if you are enjoying the game and playing it either way, I mean, hey, here's some free high-tier ships. So in today's video, I'm bringing you guys an updated coal ships list. The last time I did a dedicated coal ships video was about 2 years ago, and many a coal ship have been added to the game since then. And this was a very difficult list to put together because a lot of the coal ships are very excellent ships. So whittling it down to just 5 was pretty rough, but I think I've got 5 of the best coal ships for you to pick up, especially if you're looking at picking up your first coal ship. Any of these ships are good picks if you are familiar with whatever class they are, right? Obviously, if you're a battleship player, you probably shouldn't be picking up a coal destroyer as your first coal ship. So let's go ahead and get on into it. If you do find yourself finding this video informational, enjoyable, entertaining, or if you just downright have a good time while watching it, make sure to click that subscribe button and that like button. Leave a comment down below. Helps out on the YouTube side of things. But straight into number 5, we have the Tier 9 Japanese large cruiser, the Azuma. Now, the Azuma's at number 5 because it is probably one of the best coal premium ships in terms of credit farming, but it's also incredibly boring to play. The Azuma is played essentially one way. I mean, you can try playing it other ways, but it doesn't really work that well. But the best way to play it is a mid to long range HE spamming large cruiser. That's pretty much all it does. You get 9 310mm guns with excellent IJN HE shells with high HE alpha damage and high fire chance, meaning that it's super easy to just farm damage in the ship. And farming a large amount of damage is one of the best ways, of course, to print credits. And be it that it is a tier 9 ship, that it's an outright premium ship as well, it gets that baked in tier 9 premium economy with the reduction in service cost as well. Meaning that you've got good HE, you've got good guns, you've got a really easy ship to play here, you got a good credit printer. But again, that's about all the Azuma really does. You are kind of forced to play it from medium to long range because its armor simply isn't there. As any of you high tier battleship players know, an Azuma is one of the easiest ships in the game to just outright remove half of its HP via just a single shell to the right place on the ship. And by the right place, I mean, well, anywhere on the ship. Its armor is not good at all, so it's really easy to just outright delete this thing. So because of that, of course, you are forced to play it at longer ranges, which it's totally fine. It's totally fine being played at those longer ranges, again, because of the guns, the accuracy, and the HE. You can do that, sit in the back, and just farm all game. And yeah, that is a way to net you a ton of credits by the end of the game. The AP is also, pretty good too. If you have a broadside cruiser that's just sitting there broadside, by all means load AP and get at it, but the HE is just so daggum consistent. It's the by far the easiest method of getting credits at tier 9. Now, it's at number 5 because that is a very boring gameplay style for me, but like statistically, of course, it is like the easiest way to print credits. And if you do have a credit problem, picking up an Azuma is one way to solve it if you can, play the Azuma well. If you're someone that's, you want to get in there, play at mid to close range, the Azuma is not the ship for you. But it is a very simple gameplay loop to make happen. So if you can press one on the keyboard, if you can sit in the back, and if your aim's decent, yeah, it'll make your credits. And yes, it technically is like one of the best ships in the game for credit farming nowadays, but it's just so boring to play, and that's why it's at number 5 because of that. But yeah, if you need a credit printer and you're, good at playing mid to longer range ships, and you understand that the Azuma is a very fragile ship, by all means, do pick one up. All right, going down to number 4, we have something a little bit more exciting, the Tier 9 German premium battleship, the Pommern. Now, the Pommern is the opposite of the Azuma. It's very much a mid to close range battleship with everything you need for it. You've got the good German battleship armor, you've got the secondaries, you've got the torpedoes, you got the hydroacoustic search. Pommern is a fantastic mid to close range brawler. But you might be saying, Sealord, today's high tier meta is like the opposite of that, right? Yeah, it is, but Pommern falls into that category of brawling ships that are so good at brawling, they can still make it work in higher tier games today. Are you going to be absolutely, doing Pirates of the Caribbean drive-bys on every single ship, every single match? No. But if you can get into a situation with the Pommern where you can get in, to those close range engagements, it will do very well. And given the tool set of the Pommern, its armor, its speed, its secondaries, its torpedoes, its hydroacoustic search consumable, it can do that. But where the Pommern really shines is that many an occasion we have, ranked battles at Tier 9 or other, more competitive or alternative battle modes at Tier 9 or, Tier 10. And the Pommern is so good in those modes when ranks at Tier 9, in that small team format where the individual ships matter that much more and the engagement ranges are so much closer because of that small team format. Pommern absolutely shines there. When brawls at Tier 9, that's just tailor-made for Pommern. When we have mode shuffle, airship escort, asymmetric battles, that's just absolutely fantastic grounds for Pommern to do well in. And when you're doing well in those game modes with Pommern, which is a full-on Tier 9 premium ship, which again, that means it gets the reduction in service cost and the baked-in premium economy on top of the bonus package, it absolutely is a fantastic credit printer when it is able to do those things. I mean, when asymmetrics comes around, even after they nerf the economy to that mode, it's still not that hard to get a consistent 1,000,000 credits plus games in asymmetric battles with Pommern because, again, it's so good at close range engagements. And in ranked, when ranked's at Tier 9, ranked has that beefed up economy if you win, it's great for making credits in those modes as well. So Pommern is just a fun ship to play for me because the playstyle just jives with me so much better, and it still can print credits in the proper situation, and above all else, it is just fun. But of course, for random battles and such, while it can make it happen, of course it's not exactly in meta, and there are plenty of games where you're just kind of sailing around at longer ranges with your Pommern going, God, I wish someone would push in, or I wish our team was getting raffle stomped right now to where I can actually do something in my Pommern. So again, that's why it's back up here in the number 4 slot. All right, going our way down to number 3, we have the Tier 9 American Premium Destroyer, the Black. The Black is a ship that, if you're an older player, should sound familiar to you, because she was briefly introduced back in the day, then she was removed for being too good, they nerfed her radar, and then they reintroduced her back into the game. And you heard me right, this is a American destroyer that has radar. And yes, it still does have that American exhaust smoke, which makes her one of the absolute best cap contesting DDs in the game, because you have that nice 7.5 kilometer radar on top of the American smoke and the Fletcher guns. It's a Fletcher with a radar, essentially. And that being so means that you can and will bully other DDs quite a lot. It's always fun to counter the destroyers that always sit in their smoke screen and sit there and HE farm you. That was one of the things I enjoyed doing the most after the Black came out, because the Force Sherman, the other Tier 9 American Premium Destroyer, it might be a Tier 10, I think it's a Tier 10. I don't play the DDs that much, but whatever. The Force Sherman came out, and then a little while later the Black came out. So one of the things that I enjoyed doing the most in my black was selling to a cap, watching a force Sherman smoke up, getting within radar range of them, popping my radar, and absolutely just watching those guys have an existential crisis because all they do is sit in their smoke screen and farm with the sap or the HE and the force Sherman. It was beautiful, and the black is still able to do that today. At this point, you think more destroyer players would know that the black has radar, but it's still no problem to have destroyers just sail up into the cap or up near me, even after I've been spotted, and pop their smoke screen, and then act surprised when they get hit by radar. Then you just farm them down with your Fletcher guns. And because of the way that the game's economy works, you murdering a destroyer from full health to not is the same as if you had done that to a GK. The game doesn't really care too much about it does care about how much damage you do, right? But more of the reward you get from the damage done is based on the proportion that you did versus the ship's overall HP. So again, if you murder a destroyer down from full health to not and you only have like 15,000 damage, but that destroyer only had 15,000 HP, exactly the same as if you did that to a battleship with 100,000 HP. So by using that method, you can absolutely murder DDs, make a bunch of money with the black, and have a good time doing so. And you still get pretty decent torpedoes on top of that. You get, I believe, the 13.5 kilometer torpedoes. They hit decently well, and I've managed to get them to work while I play the black. So definitely a ship I would recommend picking up if you are a destroyer player, especially if you are an American destroyer player. You like that cap contesting gameplay style. Kind of a side grade to the Fletcher that's even more focused on that. You do give up the normal Fletcher torpedoes in order to get the radar, so there is that, but it's an excellent ship in my humble opinion. Alright, up next in our number 2 slot is the tier 10 Italian cruiser, the Napoli. The Napoli is probably, it's got to be one of the most popular ships in the game and one of the most beloved ships in the game as well, because Wargaming hasn't nerfed it yet, despite it being incredibly powerful. I'm really surprised they haven't touched it yet, and I know some of you are going to wish I hadn't spoken those words, but I mean I am, and in fact they've only buffed it since she came out, which is kind of funny. So what is the Napoli? The Napoli is an Italian heavy cruiser that its main pull is its sap secondaries. See, the Italian secondaries on most of the ships in the line are made up of these little 90mm guns, which with normal HE shells can't really do much of anything. They don't really pin that much. I think they can maybe pin 17mm of armor, if that. So by higher tier standards, that's I think you're barely even pinning destroyers at that point. But the Napoli secondaries have sap shells, which means they can pin a whole hell of a lot more because sap shells have improved pins over HE shells. So that means you have a Italian cruiser that has very useful secondaries and get out to 11 kilometers that are by default just the most accurate secondaries in the game because Wargaming has coded them to be so, and you get the exhaust smoke on top of that, on top of some very excellent guns, some nice long-range torpedoes, and a really freaking tough hull. The Napoli hull, her armor, is absolutely crazy. I've watched this thing just shrug off salvos that even battleships would have trouble shrugging off because of its armor and its maneuverability. You can whip this thing around like it really shouldn't be this maneuverable for how powerful and how tanky this ship is. It's kind of ridiculous. People complain about how tanky Petropavlovsk is. They've never been stuck playing against a couple of Napolis in clan battles. And that's another really good indicator of how powerful the Napoli is because it's usually one of the most popular picks in clan battles, and I believe even in COTS. So yeah, you slick this thing on an all flank with its sap secondaries and its ability to smoke up with its exhaust smoke, run at full speed, heal back up, come out of its exhaust, refreshed and such, and get right back at it again. It's just such a good cruiser, and it's fun too. I mean, you play this thing in random battles, even the meta being not friendly to secondary ships like we were talking about with the Pommern. The Napoli doesn't really care because again, it's fast and maneuverable enough to really do what it needs to do in order to get within secondary range and make it work. Again, on top of the smoke generator being there to either, smoke up, let the sap secondaries fire and do their thing while you launch your plane, it spots ships around you, the sap secondaries fire, you stay hidden because you're in the smoke screen, just farm the damage that way. You can use the smoke to disengage from an unfavorable position or use it to get into range and do terrible things with your sap secondaries. So yeah, the ship is absolutely just crazy. It's really fun, really good ship, and one I would of course highly recommend, especially again if you do enjoy brawling ships and you are someone that can do well with cruisers. Alright, in our number 1 slot is a ship that no one should really be surprised at all that it's here. Tier 9 American battleship, the Kearsarge. Yeah, Kearsarge, it's usually somewhere in the top of most of my list videos. Why? Because it is that good. I hate saying it, it's a hybrid ship, but I mean, look guys, again, 16-inch guns, 12 16-inch guns at tier 9, that's ridiculous in and of itself, even with the longer reload time. But the fact that you get those 12 16-inch guns with the flight deck, with the midway rocket planes, it's just a recipe for a ridiculously easy time in doing consistent damage, which, again, doing a consistent amount of damage every single game is, one of the best things you can do in order to earn credits, because the way credits work in this game, as long as you do well in the match, even if your team wins or loses, you should get a decent amount of credits, because credits don't care about a win or a loss in terms of how much you get. It's what you do. So if you get a ship that can do a consistent amount of damage in every single game, or that you can make do a consistent amount of damage in every single game, that's your key to making profit and getting tons of credits. And that's one reason why the Azuma is on this list, because you can just, click one, sell around the back, farm down a bunch of HE damage, and there you go. The Kearsarge kind of takes that to the next level, because the planes, you can sell those, you can fly those across the map and annoy someone across the map with some HE rockets, get a couple of fires on them, and then you can go back to your guns and blap someone on your side of the map. So in those situations where, everyone's dead on your side of the map, or the enemy ships are dead on your side of the map because your team rolled over them, you don't have to worry about selling into range your main battery guns, because your planes are going to be ready in 2 minutes, regardless if you lose one plane or all the planes. So every 2 minutes, you have a midway rocket squadron just ready to go. And again, they're midway rockets. They have good pins, good HE alpha, and good fire chances. So you get a nice amount of HE alpha, set a couple of fires, get a nice good source of damage coming in. You go back to the ship, you have 12 16-inch guns. There you go. It's just such a good ship for doing a consistent amount of damage in, that if you're good in battleships and you play a little bit of CVs, you shouldn't have really any problems doing well here in the Kearsarge. Just keep in mind that it is a mid-range battleship. It is not a CV with guns. It is a battleship with a flight deck. It actually has pretty good armor besides the flight deck and the flight deck's actually, armored pretty well, but the hangar walls, those are, of course, very easy to get pinned by anything with decent HE or AP, so do keep that in mind. But you do definitely need to play it for mid-range, because the main battery guns are the North Carolina's guns. They're the shorter barrels. They're the 45 caliber barrels, not the 50 caliber barrels that you get with the Iowa. So the AP shells do take pretty long to get to wherever it is that they are going. So you definitely want to be playing this ship from 17 kilometers in. 17 kilometers is really pushing it for a comfortable gun velocity. You really want to be, again, closer than that. Outside of that, you're just taking pot shots and hoping for the best, really, unless you're just a god at aiming with, again, the North Carolina's guns. So guys, those are my top 5 coal ships. What you guys think about them? What would you add to this list? What would you remove from this list? Let me know all that jazz in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Sunday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.